really excited to have Victoria Hagnai here with us today, who is a filmmaker, and well, you just do all things film production. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Victoria.
Yeah, so I've been a student of Tina's for a couple years now. Before I transitioned into acting, I was in all things video production, and so that's a lot of my background, is the technical components. And so I see a lot of actors who are really intimidated by the technical side, which I get. It can be a lot to do self-taping. So I don't know if there's questions you have for me about just some of the technical components.
Well, I do agree with you. I do find that a lot. The students will come, well, when I came back into the acting side of the business, I've been in this business for over 40 years. But, self-taping was a whole new world to me, because we always did acting and our auditions in person. So I had to learn all of that. I was very intimidated, very, very intimidated. A lot of actors are, but the truth of the matter is it's here to stay. Self-taping isn't going anywhere. And so I've had to learn through trial and error, and just, it doesn't have to cost a lot, but tell us a little bit. I've seen you've done some self-tapes for me and recorded me, and they just look so much better than what I even did for myself. And you can self-tape from your phones, but your lighting and the different things that I've noticed that you do just make the whole thing so much brighter and feel alive. So maybe what you could do today is just give us a few tips for the actors out there that are not really sure about what to do. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't have to be costly.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys probably know from Actors Access, you can shoot on your phone. It doesn't have to be a DSLR or a big fancy camera or anything like that. Now, if you are wanting to get into a little bit of a higher end camera that's not, crazy expensive, I do suggest the Sony A series. Beautiful picture quality.
Where can you get that?
So you can get that at B&H is usually where I go, or Best Buy, or Walmart has them. But yeah, look for Sony A series. They have quite a few lines, and they're not crazy expensive, but beautiful cinematic quality. So you can make your picture just pop a little bit.
Yeah.
I also suggest within your camera, and you can do this on your smartphone, actually shoot your self-tapes in 4K. That way when you go into edit, before you send it, if you need to crop in a little, it's not going to lose any of that resolution. So it makes it a little bit more flexible.
So with HD, I learned this from you, it's harder to do that. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's just the pixels are different.
Yeah.
So when you're in 4K, you have more pixels per, I think it's square inch or something like that.
Okay.
Centimeter, something very technical. But when you crop in on the edit, you're going to lose some of that quality. One note, just back on the visual side, make sure you have a camera that can autofocus. That'll be super important, because not everyone's like us where we, have another actor around. And so if you're filming yourself, you want to make sure your camera has that autofocus setting, and that can help you out on many
Can you do that on your telephone as well?
Yes. Again, it's not gonna be as sensitive as a camera would typically, but it will still have that capability. So.
Okay. So what about the person that doesn't have thousands to invest in a really good quality camera at this time? So many of the telephones, and even casting directors will say right now that you can just use your phone.
Right, yeah.
Which brings you into the lighting, I would think, as well, right? The importance of lighting with that.
Well, honestly, even like what I was saying with 4K, smartphones almost all smartphones have 4K capability. Yeah. So you can shoot in 4K on your phone. And then with the lighting, lighting is a little bit more sensitive with your phone, just because you can't, it will blow out sometimes with the contrast, where a DSLR won't as much. And so with your lighting, I mean, with a studio setup, you typically, have your 3 lighting setup where you want fill, even if it's coming in from the window.
So in here, I notice we have one window. And I notice with the one window, there's usually light if we're filming during the daytime. We have 2 soft boxes. Is that what they're called? Softbox lights?
Yes, yeah.
And then a ring light, but you keep that ring light in a distance usually, because it can glare your eyes. So I noticed you use the 2 soft box lights, but you don't put it directly where it's super bright.
I'll try to bounce it off the wall a lot of times, because I mean, the cameras are made to pick up light, so you don't need to, you know, have everything on you just very direct.
And it depends on the time of the day and the lighting coming
Right.
from outside, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what does the new actor do with that? Just get in front of the camera and begin to practice and see how the lighting...
Yeah, I think that's one of the best ways, is just to play. I mean, you can find YouTube videos on how to situate your lighting, but the best way to do it is to play with having the light behind you, having it to the side, having the fill light, because that's and also when the subject or the actor moves, that affects lighting too. So it's a lot of play, and it's a lot of, I would say, as long as you have 3 lights that you can play with, like, you'll be good to go. And these little soft boxes are, you know, you can get them for $50
Oh, they're
on
so
Amazon.
inexpensive. You can get a pair for under $100. Yeah. I noticed something too. We have hardwood flooring in here. And one of the things that I learned, depending on the microphone that you have, and we can go into that in a second, but I would lay a blanket down or just throw something on the floor to absorb the sound.
Right. Yeah.
Because it used to echo and fly off.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, again, I know there's various prices, different degrees that you can do, but what do you think would give a really good, just a good quality microphone if you're getting started with the whole self-taping?
Yeah, what I usually use is a Rode shotgun mic, and it's just very directional sound. And so when you're doing self-tapes, typically subject's not moving a lot and it's direct to camera. So it picks up a really nice sound. Now the audition we were doing yesterday for you, where you had a very intense scene and there was screaming, and that can be iffy with your shotgun. So you can even do things like a lavalier, something like that. And you know, sometimes it can be direct to camera.
Can you turn the mic down?
Yes,
filming? Oh.
you can.
Okay.
Yeah, there's camera settings that you would have to go in and do that.
What about your background, the backdrop?
Yeah, so you want a solid background. I think casting directors like blue, green, anything solid that's not going to distract.
You could use a wall as long as there's nothing behind you. Solid color.
Yes.
In your character.
Yeah, and I think one thing that helps us when one of us has an auditions, we mark it before. We'll put little markers down if we need it. Just block a little bit, but again, you always teach in class, don't let that get in your head, still become alive with the character. But it does help when you have those little points and you get that out of the way before you start your shooting.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that does help, doesn't it? Yeah. The other thing I know too, I remember having an incident once where, you know, the air conditioner went on, and it was such a good part. You know, when you just know you're right there, and you hear either the dog barks or the air conditioner goes off. I think it's really wise to turn off your systems.
Yes.
Yeah, you would agree with that, because it's so sensitive. It's depending on the microphone that you have as well, that it just pick up the sound from different things. Put the dogs outside if you have the dog, or the cat not scratching. I've had dogs come into the interview. I mean, into the audition. And so, you know, just having a nice, quiet, non-distracting environment, I think helps as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, this truly is the age where the actor has to think like the filmmaker in some ways, because that's how we're taught to think. Control the sound, control the light, and then bring it to life. Yeah. You know, and so that's what we as actors are doing in these little tapes.
That's a good point. You said the actor has to think like the filmmaker.
And these little.
I think that's what threw me a loop in the beginning. I was so used to just coming on set and everything was done for me, and I had to learn it. But I've had such a great time learning it and exploring. I've learned so much from you. You're just so skilled and so good at it, but you make it easy, and it's really not as difficult as some of us think. What about the editing?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I typically use Adobe products just because that's a common one for professionals, but there's all kinds of things. I know there's Veed, there's iMovie, there's free ones that are pretty easy. Oh, DaVinci is a really nice one, completely free. So you get in there, get your edit in. Sometimes I'll crop in. That's most of what I have to do for it. It should be a pretty simple edit, and then slate and send it in. So
Yeah, it's really just piecing it together, picking
Mhm.
your selections and putting it together.
yeah,
And that's it.
that's it. Easy,
Download,
right?
upload, and send it in, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today, Victoria.
Thank you.
These are wonderful tips. And I've learned so much from you. And every time we've worked together, I've always learned something else from you too. And I think one of the biggest things we can say is just have fun with it. Enjoy what you do. No pressure. Just create. Have a good time.
Yes.
And thank you again for being here. Wonderful tips.
Thank you.
Love you dearly. Thank you so much.